Is typos, not in Nancy's minutes, but hearing none, I'll take a vote on the approval of the minutes. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Public hearings, we don't have any, so we're moving right on to acknowledgements by council members, and I'll start with Terry.
So I just wanted to kind of give acknowledgement to our Old Town Orono High School hockey team for being Northern. Is this coming across well?
Yeah.
To being Northern Maine champions and also runners-up at state. They played an amazing game. It was fun to watch. I also want to kind of let everybody know that University of Maine hockey team is hosting a playoffs this weekend at 7 o'clock starting Friday night. Thursday night at Orono Brewing Company, they're having a pep rally for anybody who's interested also. That's it.
Great. Cheryl?
Yeah. I'm kind of sending this out to the community. So last week, there was our legislature is in session right now, and there were several members of the community that submitted written testimony for a bill called LD 2104, which was producer stewardship, and it brings more revenue back into the municipality. So it's one of the bills that I support. But we had a showing of community support as well, and so I'm sending out a thank you for those people that took the time. I think it's really important to be active for something that you believe in, and it really helped, and it's got a good chance of passing. So I'm really happy about that. So thank you. Oh yeah. And next week we have a teen night, tween. I don't know how close I need to sit to this thing. It's like loud. Tween and teen night at council. So all you tweens and teens out there, I just like to say tween. We have a night. It starts at 6, and it's about voicing your own concerns, your comments and your concerns. So we're hoping we get some of our teenagers or teenage activists to come in and help us out a little bit.
I know that a lot of voting has happened, voting and caucusing. Oh my. But there's another election tomorrow. So if you have not already voted via early voting, absentee ballot, et cetera, please do come to Town Hall and cast your vote in the municipal election tomorrow. There are 2 spots on town council up for a vote, and also it's 2 on school board, right? Yes, 2 on school board. So I know you've got more voting energy in you, so please come by tomorrow. Thanks.
Lori?
I want to give a shout out to our town staff who put together the election. Our clerk, Shelley Crosby, did a fabulous job. We had 900 people come and register to vote on the day of voting on Tuesday. And so it was a huge turnout. People were standing in line. The line moved quickly. The police helped keep everything safe so that we had exits were not being blocked by people standing in line. And it's really exciting to see our citizens of our town exercising their right to vote, because that's important for democracy. So I'm proud of our staff. I wanted to give them a shout out, and proud of our citizens for coming out to vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, real quick. So we just passed a message here, which I didn't think to announce, but I knew of this. There is a school board seat open. We'll have information out this week for RSU 26. So if you know anyone who's interested in being considered for this, please let them know or step forward, submit your information. We'll have info out through our website and email probably this week.
Yeah, and that's the resignation on the school board that the council has to appoint somebody.
Yes. So there's a resignation, and we get to appoint somebody.
To finish
It's
out
so
the term.
nice to have that power. We wield it mightily. But we take a lot into consideration. Otherwise, vote, wash your hands, don't hoard. Thank you.
I will just add to Lori's comments that I really would like to thank staff for everything they did. It was a real team effort to get everybody through, and we had a great turnout, and we get to do it all again tomorrow, so hopefully they're resting. Consent, unfinished business, we have none. Consent agenda, we have none, so we're moving right on to new business. So order 2027, order approving the June 9th, 2020 special municipal referendum warrant to determine whether voters in Orono support ceasing the practice of fluoridating the public water supply, and further setting the date of April 27th, 2020 at 6 p.m. for the statutorily required public hearing to allow for public comment on this matter. So I will take a motion, please.
Move approval.
Second?
Sophie, it's you.
So I promised that I wasn't going to steal all the thunder from the April 27th public hearing, but I do have just a brief recap of what we're doing and why council's considering it. So as we've discussed at the council, with council before, Orono VZ Water District is the legal entity that is responsible for the public water supply. Separate from the town does not have direct control over what the water district does. However, town council does have a couple of roles. The first is that you appoint 3 of the 5 members that are the trustees or the governing body of the water district. We pay a little over $200,000 a year in annual fire protection fees, which is the hydrant system. And you are also responsible, the only entity that can call municipal elections. So it is that calling of municipal elections is the reason that we're here. Under the state law, while most everything that has to do with the water system, the power to make decisions is vested either with the operator on record or the trustees of the water district. The decision of whether or not to put fluoride in the water system is vested by state law in the voters of the community that's served by the water district. So the district can't decide what to do with fluoride. The town council can't decide what to do with fluoride. Only the voters can. So we began putting hydrofluorosilicic acid in the public water supply back in 1962. That is back before the town council was a council. It was Board of Selectmen, and it was a different water district, but the vote holds. So right now, when you go back into the water quality reports for the water district, you will see that they fluoridate at 0.7 parts per million ppm so that's how much fluoride is actually in the system. And you would know that Orono and VZ are 2 of 129 communities in the state that put fluoride in the water. Okay. So the question, and this is in very broad brushstrokes because I did not want to start a debate tonight, but why do we add fluoride into the water system? And it was an initiative that started in the 1930s. It was all around the issue of tooth decay. And what they thought was consistent, small doses in a consistent way of fluoride hitting teeth was the best way to try to prevent cavities. The CDC, Center for Disease Control, thinks that this is the most cost-effective method and that it reduces tooth decay by about 25% in children and adults. This is from the CDC website, just so you know. So when in my cursory look as I prepare for the public hearing on the 27th, what I've been able to find is that the CDC, the American Dental Association, and the American Public Health Association are all very strong proponents for communities to continue to put fluoride in the water system. So there are people out there that would like for the communities to stop putting fluoride in the water system. The most active of them that I could find on a web search was the Fluoride Action Network. And if you go on that website, they reference other research, but that's in general kind of the umbrella. And what they're saying is that it's bad medical practice. They say that, why are we adding this chemical into the water system for the purpose of medical treatment? We don't do that for anything else. And their argument is that doses can't be controlled. So it's not like a medication that somebody can be prescribed. They feel like fluoride accumulates in the body and causes some serious medical problems, and that it is no longer necessary because unlike the 1930s, there are lots of products readily available on the market with fluoride in them for people to use. They had 50 points. I tried to synthesize it into 3 bullets. And that is their general contact information. They reference some other reports that I have not put up here, one from the National Institute for Health and one for the American Cancer Association. I've not made it all the way through the reports, and I didn't want to put words in their mouths or words on their page. So the question of why are we discussing it now? We know we're discussing it because council's the only entity that can put the question back in front of voters. But after 58 years of fluoridation, there has been a consistent stream of citizens that have raised this question, both with staff and with the Orono-VZ Water District. And the town council received a letter from the trustees of the water district not taking a position on whether or not we should put fluoride in the water, but rather saying, it's been 58 years, folks. Perhaps science has changed. Perhaps now is a good time to put the question back out to voters to make this decision. So what would the next steps be? So with this election, it has to be simultaneous in Orono and VZ. Right now, my text has actually gone off that Mark Leonard is making the same presentation before the VZ Town Council. So if you both tonight approve the warrant, which is, you say it's the official calling of the election, then we move forward. Mark and I are working together to create a place on our website for links and information for residents, both pro and con, so we want to be very factual. On the 13th of April, there will be a public hearing in VZ. On the 27th of April, there'll be a public hearing here, starting at 6 o'clock. And on June 9th, there would be a municipal referendum election. Absentee ballots will be available as of May 11th. That's what I have.
All right. Do counselors have any questions or comments? And I guess I'd ask you not to really get into the pros and cons of fluoride. At this point, we're just really talking about whether we want to put it up for municipal referendum.
Well, that was sort of the comment I was going to make. Right? Yeah, it's. I think that maybe out in the world, in the community, it's a little confusing to folks why this is happening. But council is not taking a position. Council is not deciding about this issue. It's really a question of, it has been almost 60 years since we have had the voters speak to this issue, so it probably is time. And I think that it's a reasonable thing to do. But council does not take a position or have a position.
Anyone else wish to comment?
Thank you for the opportunity to comment. So we're going to have a public hearing, which means people can come and ask experts questions, right? There's really presentation by some expert?
I'm not sure about experts, but
Okay, okay.
Some information.
There'll be information, there's be a chance to have community discussion in advance of the election, of the vote. And that way, this is an opportunity for all of us to get educated about this. So that we can address the citizens who have come to the staff to request that we review this. So this is a way for our community to review, our community and the VZ community to review this.
anybody else? All right, hearing none. I'll take a vote on Order 2027. All those in favor of setting up the referendum? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to 2028, order approving the contract zone amendment request by Sons of Carpentry LLC to amend an existing contract zone for 117 through 121 Mill Street to allow for an additional residential dwelling unit on the second floor of the structure. Take a motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
Okay.
Hi, Kyle Drexler, Town Planner. So this is contract zone amendment is at the adoption stage. Just to quickly summarize, there's a 3-story building on Mill Street in the medium density residential district. It has an existing contract zone that allows for office space on the first 2 floors, and it has a dwelling unit on the 3rd floor. The applicant wishes to add a second dwelling unit on the 2nd floor because they haven't been able to fill that space through lots of advertising and trying to have it occupied. I believe we've addressed the concerns that have been raised by the community through the planning board public hearing and council public hearing. So if there's any questions, I'm here to answer. Otherwise, to you.
It's up to us. Anyone have any questions for Kyle? We have talked about this several times.
No, I just want to acknowledge the work that Kyle did and the whole team. This is, again, just exemplary and very sensitive microphone. So, thank you, Kyle, for this. And again, we have gone over this, not quite ad nauseum, but quite a few times. So.
Just so that, because we have the benefit of background materials and some folks weren't part of those discussions, I just want to quickly add that one of the things that we really put this property owner through the paces on was this question of impact in the neighborhood. And he was very amenable to our suggestions. And one of the biggest issues being rooftop access to that building. And I think it's important to note that he agreed to have it written into the contract zone that even if the fire code changes, there would still not be rooftop access, which was one of the neighborhood's primary concerns about that unit. So, because I guess some folks in the past had parties up there, but he was very open to working with that suggestion. So I just wanted to note that.
Anyone else? All right, hearing none, I'll take a vote on Order 2028. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Run before we come back. Order 2029, order authorizing the town manager to order 2 2020 Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicles from Darlings Bangor Ford of Bangor in the amount of $76,606, $38,303 each, along with equipment installed by Custom Installations LLC of Levant, not to exceed $15,000, and additional cruiser preparation of up to $1,500 for a total cost of up to $93,106, with funds drawn from the FY21 capital equipment budget after July 1, 2020. I'll take a motion, please.
Move approval.
Second.
There's nothing left for you to say,
I'm
Guy.
fine if you're. Hi there, Josh Ewing, Police Chief. We talked last month about kind of a calculated risk that was taken during this fiscal year to drop down to 1 cruiser rather than 2, in order to purchasing 1 cruiser rather than 2 in order to save in other areas of the budget, with the hopes that maybe upping the repair line would be enough to offset any sort of increased costs. We had a very significant increased cost of a motor that completely failed, and one of the cruisers that had high mileage that would have been taken out of the fleet had the two, if it had been replaced in time. Interestingly enough, the new cruiser that we did purchase, we were still waiting for as of last month. Ford changed the model a little bit. They just tweaked it enough to change production. Everybody's waiting for cruisers at this point. So ours hadn't arrived, and when it did arrive, it needed some more work to be done at the dealership, at which point we lost a motor in the car. So this has been happening in the last few years in ordering cruisers. Seems to be a delay each time because everybody orders them at the same time, and Ford gets them to us when they can, and those delays, obviously we're putting miles back on cars or continuing to put miles on cars while we're waiting for those cruisers. So it's kind of an unusual request, but if I can get ahead of that production order and order cars now and get us back on track sooner, have the cars show up a little sooner, after July 1st, I would expect for sure, still pay for them with next fiscal year's budget, will get us back on track and get the two oldest, most high mileage cars off the line sooner, and hopefully not incur any more significant costs. And we were very fortunate, and it's interesting that this note was put in here in the background, but I was going to say it anyway. We were very, very fortunate to find a used motor with low mileage and have it installed by our Public Works Department. And I was shocked when I got a call a few weeks ago to say, hey, we're putting the motor in your car, I'm going to take it for a test drive today. And they had just gotten the motor. So they did an amazing job. They got it in. The cruiser is back up and running. So we're very happy about that. We're very fortunate to have that department that was so willing to help us. It was a much higher cost. Any other option we had was a much higher cost for that car. So we saved a lot of money, and got the car back a lot faster than we ever would have. Any questions?
I have just one question. What happens to our high mileage cars? Like we replace the cruisers, and what happens to the ones that
What we've
we're
done
replacing?
the last few years, we've put them out to bid. We have an option. We were able to do it with one of the Ford Fusions that we had was traded in.
Mm-hmm.
And we did ask for a trade-in value. And with the replaced motor, it's actually far better than we'd ever get as a putting it out to bid. So I would hope to talk to Sophie about that, because we can get quite a bit taken off of the purchase.
That was the question.
Yes, excellent idea.
The other thing we do is other cars in the town fleet, we have,
On occasion, we've repurposed them to another department, yes.
Yeah.
If there was a need, we can.
So I'm just going to interrupt Josh for a minute because he appreciates all of the equipment that council gives him. He really does. But by the time we're actually moving a cruiser out of the fleet, it has spent time as a frontline vehicle. It has then moved to a secondary vehicle. It has then moved to the, oh my word, we really are in trouble vehicle. So there is not a lot of life left in those cars by the time we're done. And I would just echo, I was incredibly proud of my team when Public Works not only stepped up, but to watch PD and Public Works work together. We've got incredibly talented mechanic and mechanical people at Public Works. So that served the taxpayers well.
any other comments or questions?
I like the phrase calculated risk. We did take a calculated risk.
Not
We
an
were
unreasonable
trying.
one either. It was very reasonable.
It was a reasonable risk to try to save a little money in the budget, and it would have worked if it hadn't been for
Murphy.
some mechanical failure. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense to not get further behind.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I always have a concern about is guaranteeing something in the next budget, but this is a rotation that we have historically used, so we're not really asking for anything extraordinary on the budget. So, all right. Anyone else? Hearing none, I'll take a vote on Order 2029. All those in favor? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Good luck with it. And now we'll move on to Public Works. Order 2030, order awarding the bid for a dump body, material spreader, plow wing, and associated equipment and controls to Viking Sieves of Lewiston for survey for $103,115 to be drawn from the approved FY20 capital equipment budget. I'll take a motion, please.
Move approval.
Second.
Rob?
Yeah, so in the current fiscal year, council budgeted in the capital equipment budget a heavy-duty plow truck unit, budgeted $185,000 to replace a 2005 Sterling. In December, you awarded the purchase of the chassis, so the base of the truck, to Dale and Hooten for a total investment of around $82,000. Just last week, we received bids for the remainder of the work required to turn the truck chassis into a plow truck, which includes the plow equipment, the dump body, the hydraulic, all the controls to handle that hydraulic system. And those bids, the bid for the first unit came in at $103,115 for a total investment of the fiscal year 20 unit of $185,139. At that time, we also had talked in Finance Committee about purchasing the second unit, which has been included in the 5-year capital plan for the fiscal year 21 investment period. At the time that we accepted the bids in December for the first unit, in discussing with the vendor options for next year, he sort of offhandedly offered that we should probably look at buying the truck this year under a state bid structure, because the unit that we just bought for $82,000 we could actually buy cheaper if we were to invest in it now. So what you have in front of you are 3 orders, consecutive orders. The first order is to buy the equipment for the chassis that we've already purchased. The next 2 orders include the purchase of the second unit, which will replace a 2006 Sterling. The trade value for the second truck is a little less because it's a single axle truck as opposed to a dual axle truck. It's a little bit smaller. But ultimately, the total investment for the truck unit is $86,850. And the bids that we just put out for the equipment included a second unit, which came in at $96,885 for a total investment of the second unit, which would be the fiscal year 21 investment of $183,755. So all told, buying the body for the first truck that we've already bought and the second unit complete, the total budget had been set at $370,000. If we move forward with all 3 orders tonight, the total investment would be $368,894, leaving about $1,100 under budget for both units.
Any questions?
It's not going to snow again this year.
Well, staff and I were just talking about the possibility of that happening, and generally things are. We've had some pretty big storms in March and actually even the beginning of April. So March is a winter month, so I'm not hedging any bets on that. But we're in pretty good place with our budget at this point. And I will say the investment in the second unit. Plow trucks, much like police vehicles, take some time to get delivered. You have to have the chassis built at the factory, then it gets delivered to the vendor that's going to build the truck itself, make it a plow truck from a chassis. And that can take as long as 6 months. So our plow trucks sometimes take 6 to 9 months to get delivered once you order them. If we move forward tonight with both units, we'll be able to replace both of our oldest units, 2 of 4, for this coming, 2021 winter, which is going to protect us from having any catastrophic failures with our 2006 unit that's certainly served its lifespan.
Rob, have you used this vendor before?
Yes, the Viking Survey built our Western Star unit for us, so we've just used them about 3 years ago.
Anyone else?
Do we need to correct the spelling of the name? Do we have that correct?
It's CIVES.
All right.
but, yeah.
It's the pronunciation, which I.
So you were very clear, but I was not taking notes. And so I would like to get you to summarize. You're saying that the money that you thought you'd spend on 2 trucks, you're going to spend less.
The total investment for the 2 trucks, the 2 chassis, and the 2 upfits comes to $368,894, going against the budget of $370. So it's $1,106 under budget for the 2 fiscal years combined.
And you're asking us to vote now in a similar way as the chief asked us to vote now so that you can order now.
Correct.
Some of it is for next year's budget. Some is stuff that was already for this year's budget.
Yes, the first order addresses the fiscal year 20 investment, and then the next 2 orders to follow will allow Sophie to authorize the order of the truck and body, which will all be delivered and paid for in fiscal year 21 after July 1st, but lets us get our order in line so that we can take delivery of it before the winter season comes along.
And again, we had discussed how this is a planned purchase. So even though we're ordering it a little bit ahead of time, it was a planned purchase for the next
So
budget.
not only was it a planned purchase, but it was a planned purchase that got pushed so that we could
Pushed it back.
we've pushed it twice. So there is no more pushing in the budget for this one.
Well, why don't we deal with Order 2030 right now? So I'll take a vote on Order 2030. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Order 2031, order authorizing the purchase of a 2021 International HV 607 heavy-duty truck chassis from Daigle and Hooten of Herman in the amount of $108,870, less the trade-in value for the 2006 Sterling plow truck for a total expense of $86,870 to be drawn from the approved FY21 capital equipment budget. Take a motion, please.
Move approval?
Second?
All right. Anyone else have any further questions, comments? Nope. Hearing none. I'll take a vote on Order 2031. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. 2032, order awarding the bid for a dump body material spreader, plow wing, and associated equipment and controls to Viking, and I'm going to do it again,
All right.
Survey Lewiston for $96,885 to be drawn from the approved FY21 capital equipment budget. Take a motion, please.
Approval?
Second.
All right, any other questions, comments? All right, hearing none, I'll take a vote on Order 2032. All those in favor? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'm glad you're feeling better, Rob. All right, moving on to council committee and representative reports. We'll start with Sam. Anything?
We did a joint meeting. We had a joint meeting, and Megan has more detailed notes than I do.
Okay. Lori, do you have anything to report? Nope. Well, Megan, you get it all.
Oh, wow, I win. No, I'm a forever student. I have lots of notes, but I won't read them all. I just suffice it to say that at the comp plan / community development committee meeting, the joint committee meeting, we had a presentation and discussion on the concept of a mixed-use conditional zoning district to provide a buffer area between the village commercial and medium-density residential districts. This is part of a larger conversation that we've been having connected to some comp plan and some community development issues around affordability of units, around attracting young families, graduate students who want to have a different kind of housing. And so we've been taking on that piece of the comp plan, and it does also fold into community development. So in various ways across different committees, we were looking at ways to address density issues. And so one of the things that our incredibly smart staff thought would be a good idea is to bring us together and kind of make sure that we weren't doing different things in different places, but having one large conversation. So basically the concept of this buffer zone as we discussed it is just that the village commercial district and the medium density residential district have very different they're very different, but they border on each other very closely. So in terms of lot size and the things that you can do in these districts, it's very, very different, but they're right there smack against each other, across Main Street, even in some places. So we were looking at ways to create a mixed use zone in between. We ended up talking quite a bit about digging in more to the question of lower impact village commercial uses, playing the what if game. Who would take advantage of this? How would it work for different configurations of commercial and residential uses? And then we folded it eventually into a larger conversation that we had at a council workshop the week following about a village residential overlay and conditional village commercial district. So this is an ongoing conversation that council's having across various committees. So that's that. I also attended an Orono Historical Society meeting this month, which took place at 4:00 in the afternoon. Yes, the time has moved. So the first Wednesday of every month at 4:00 in the afternoon at the Birch Street School, the Orono Historical Society meets. They were moving the time in an effort to see if folks who were working in the middle of the day might find it easier to attend in the afternoon. So we, I don't think you mentioned this, Terry, in your acknowledgements, but the bicentennial celebration is this Saturday at the Stone Manor, and the Orono Historical Society is going to be putting out a lot of displays of some of their artifacts. So it's a great time to stop by and see some Orono history. And also in that celebration will be a taste of Orono. So the breweries and restaurants of Orono will be setting up shop to give out free samples to the community. So that's 4 to 6 over at the Stone Manor this Saturday. And I believe in council chamber before that will be an author talk from a gentleman who wrote a book about Mainers who were on the Titanic. So there's a whole day of celebrations and fireworks at the end of the night. So I hope folks will participate.
Cheryl?
I'm all set.
Terry, did she take everything you had to say?
She did really good with that. I just want to add a couple more notes on the celebration this weekend. There's a lot going to be going on in town starting Thursday night all the way through. So there's many things going on. So it's an exciting time to kind of go find things to do. For the individuals who are going to be setting up at the Stone Manor, setup time starts at 1:00. Actually, we'll be there at 1:00, so they can start about 2. But we're also looking for volunteers. So if anybody wants to come and contribute, be there at 1:00 at the Stone Manor.
Day?
This Saturday.
Saturday.
Yes, yeah. And so I just also want to remind the individuals who are doing the Taste of Orono, if we have not gotten a registration from you, please get it in by tomorrow so we know exactly all the different restaurants that are going to be there. And also a reminder to please bring your own plates and utensils. The vendors, not you. So that you could actually be able to hand out your food for them. So I think that was pretty much it for our meeting today. So hope to see everybody out there on Saturday.
Cool. That's the weather's supposed to be.
Nice.
Perfect.
All right. Well, we'll go right back to Terry and start with the future agenda items and items of concern. Do you have any, sir? No. Cheryl?
I just have one, and this is from some community members who would like to know if we could talk again about moving public comments or concerns to the front of our council meetings that are non-agenda items. So agenda items would not be discussed to the front of our meetings as a way to encourage more public engagement in our meetings, so the people who come don't have to sit all the way through to the end before they can offer public comment or concerns. And I know it's been something that's been discussed before, and I've been asked if we could just bring that up again in the future. Thank you.
Megan?
Yes, so I guess this is possibly a future agenda item, maybe for a workshop. I think there have been enough questions recently regarding council email communication that we should probably consider drafting a policy, or at minimum having a conversation. Of course, part of that, we could simply take from our FOA training materials about our legal and ethical responsibilities when communicating via email, whether it's with each other, with town staff, or with the public. But there's probably also a piece that could be an extension of our communication discussion from our professional development that we had this winter about what's appropriate, what our norms are, and just establishing this so that we're all on the same page. I'm not sure that, I know we have a very busy schedule, but I think enough questions have come up that it warrants at least a discussion, or perhaps drafting some language.
Lori, do you have anything?
No, thank you.
Okay. Sam?
No, just to tag along with what Cheryl brought up, I think the school board in their meetings, they have modified it so public comments come closer to the beginning of that for that very purpose. So not that it's not a riveting 2-3 hours. So
We're very entertaining.
awesome.
All right, we will put those. I'm sure Sophie's been taking notes. Sure. Yep.
Today. I would very much like to talk with council about council's purchasing policy, creating a policy or a statement, because in the 8 years, almost 9 years, 9 years next month that I've been here, council has never had the authority to purchase in the town's name counselors, individual counselors, unlike staff, which stems through my authority. And I think if we're going to have counselors who are going to be more engaged and want to make purchases in the town's name, we should have a policy or a procedure for doing that.
Okay.
Or clearly prohibiting it, one of the two.
Okay. We'll have a busy workshop. Go ahead.
So I guess under future agenda items or items of concern, the state legislature passed a energy efficiency measure law that made it possible for municipalities to get funding from the state to enhance the fleet in the state, or the number of people in the state who are using electric vehicles. And that includes having a charging station that the municipality installs, and also the possibility of having funds from the state to purchase vehicles for our fleet. And so that's a really exciting possibility. It's happened only since we developed our budget for last year, and the town staff is always, as you've heard tonight, looking many years in advance on how they're going to replace vehicles in the fleet. So even though that money is available and it meets with the goals of many of our citizens, it would be very hard for us to implement taking advantage of these state opportunities, because we'd have to make a plan to do that. So I'd say that that fits neatly into the idea of a future agenda item or an item of concern, because we would, as a town, like to take advantage of the opportunity to move into a more energy efficient fleet and encourage our visitors to our town and the citizens of our town to look towards more energy efficiency in our transportation. So we don't have it on our agenda in the future because it's a new issue that's just been made possible by the change in the legislature that allowed this energy efficiency bill to be passed into law.
Okay, we will add that to the list. Public petitions, we don't have any. Public comments.
Susan Whitmore. Last month, I spoke not to bring this topic prematurely. The last month, I mentioned that in 2012, January 2012 meeting, fluoridation was discussed. And at that month, I wrote to the National Kidney Foundation after I found some blip of information saying that fluoridation damaged kidneys. Wrote to the National Kidney Foundation. They responded to me with a report confirming that. Thought I'd mention that. The other is a kind of historical tidbit of information. A report from March 6th. Rosalind P. Walter, who inspired the Rosie the Riveter song, has died at the age of 95. An interesting thing, when I was locating this report on my phone, I actually discovered there's actually been a series of Rosie the Riveter female steelworkers. Kind of interesting, I thought. And aside from that, to those who celebrate St. Patrick's Day, perhaps a drive to Boston where it gets kind of celebratory, at least there, and have a happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you
As for
very much.
pots of gold, good luck. As I mentioned, it's getting blown into the smoking paraphernalia.
There you go. Thank you, Susan. Anyone else wish to make a public comment? Hearing none, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, all those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Is that the